Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode in the Jason's Take On podcast series with myself, Jason Noble, here in London, and my partner in crime, Mr. Whitehead. Say hello, Jason.
Hello, Jason. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
We are super excited to be back. I think we've had a break over the summer. Hope everyone had a good summer holiday. But we are really excited today to have with us Lynn Hunsaker, who's going to talk to us about customer success leaders as the stewards of customer value. An article that she published recently that really resonated with myself and Jason. A lot of good stuff in there. Welcome, Lynn. I hope I've pronounced your last name correctly.
Yes, Lynn Hunsaker. Glad to be here.
Perfect. Well, welcome. Really excited. Lynn, a quick introduction. I'll give you one. Lynn is the Chief Customer Officer of Clear Action Continuum. She's also the co-founder of the Experience Value Exchange subscription community. Lynn, you've spent a number of years now leading customer experience, customer success transformation across some great companies. And you've also worked across a number of other key roles. I see you've been a marketing director, voice of the customer lead. So you've got a really extensive and I think really focused experience as well on what it means for customers. In addition to all of this, you're a writer, you're an author, you're a publisher. You've got a number of books now that our listeners can find on Amazon that cover amazing topics like innovating customer success, customer experience. You've also run a number of training courses on journey mapping facilitation. And one that I really like is customer centricity skills for founders and execs, which is really incredible. And I think a lot of these courses and books have been translated into other languages. So it's really widespread this. So it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. For our listeners even that don't know you, I wonder if you could give us in your own words, a brief introduction to your own work that you're doing at Clear Action and your own journey really into the role of Chief Customer Officer there.
Sure. Well, it's all about closing the gap between what's promised and what's expected, what people get, right? So, marketing will put out a value proposition. The brand stands for something. People have an expectation based on what sales told them. And then, they get what they get and they use what they get. And if they need to get help, then that's usually a red flag that there's a gap, right? It wasn't exactly what was promised. So this happens to all of us. I'm experiencing it in my own small company where people need help or something didn't pan out. So, nobody's perfect, but we need to be striving toward closing that gap. And when we close the gap, we have a good experience. And I think we need to revisit that as marketers, customer experience people, customer success, service, and just executives of any type. It's all about closing that gap. And when we do that, we're creating more trust. So how I got into this field was through strategic planning, a role in a Fortune 250 company initially, where I was asked to go visit customers across North America and talk to their purchasing managers, general managers about their perceptions of where we stood compared to, value. So what they were getting for the price paid, and our competitors. And then that turned into a voice of the customer role, reporting into strategic planning, where we were using the VOC both for our strategic planning formula and for total quality management in ISO 9000. So I went from that packaging company in South Carolina to voice of the customer role in California, in the Silicon Valley, reporting into the corporate quality group. And after about 3 or 4 years, I became head of corporate quality myself. And in so doing, I was responsible for making major change happen across more than 50 P&Ls worldwide, but I had no direct authority over them. And so I learned a lot about organizational change and things like this. And that really flavored what I've brought to Clear Action Continuum. First of all, seeing really clearly a strategic viewpoint, how it connects to business and investors. Second, taking action and being accountable. And then thirdly, continuing the momentum. So being in Silicon Valley for almost 3 decades, I wrote Innovating Superior Customer Experience as a way to have a connection between, hey, I'm about keeping customers, but most of the people there are about acquiring customers with the latest mousetrap. So that's kind of an eclectic mix that was generated over time.
I love that journey, and that I think that kind of focus, as you said, about keeping customers is kind of this transition that we're seeing now. And I love the way you've kind of come into this and all these different focus roles and this idea of kind of change. There is a lot of organizations that struggle with change, and kind of we've talked about it before, and kind of how I think even as customer success professionals and leaders, we're often change agents. So I think there's a really good overlap there. You wrote an article recently, and this is how we came connected on the Customer Think site, about how chief customer officers can stop, and I'll say these correctly, shrinkflation and skimpflation. What I really liked about the article was how you described as customer success leaders, we're the stewards of customer value. And this really, as we said at the beginning, this resonates with both me and Jason. Tell us a bit more about kind of the article, what prompted you to write it, and your thinking behind it.
Yeah. Well, going back to that first definition, if you think about customer experience, a good customer experience is nothing more fancy than the realities meeting the expectations. Then when realities don't meet expectations because we're cutting corners, we're, whether it be making the product smaller, that's shrinkflation, or making the product with lower quality, that's skimpflation, or even a service with lower quality, and even inflation, just having to pay more for what you got last month or last year, it's costing more. That's wrong, because we're supposed to be generating value, growing value for our investors, for our employees, our partners, and our customers. Who else in the company should be the key stuckee for growing value besides the customer experience leader, and then affiliated with that, marketing and employee experience. So and strategic planning, it actually starts to mushroom out to everyone really should be caring about creating additional value. And that's why I say that customer experience is a team sport. And that's how you really get to preventing skimpflation and shrinkflation. You need to be thinking about customer experience as a team sport, meaning that there is no extraneous player. Every player on the field is necessary. Any player on the field that drops the ball, takes shortcuts, didn't get enough sleep the night before, wasn't paying attention, can mess up the game, right? And that's what happens here. You've got a promise to customers that you're going to deliver X, Y, Z, and then you don't. And so then you have all this customer remedy need, right? That's massive waste. If we could stop the customer remedy need, then you could rechannel that money into, hey, we don't have to shrink our product or skimp our service, right? So I call this CX annuities. The whole concept is customer experience annuities, where you're getting to the root of those issues, where you're creating waste and requiring remedies to prevent churn,
Right.
and get out of that rat race, right? Stop the insanity, get to the root of it, and then rechannel that investment that would have had to go on forever and ever into perpetuity, right? The more you're adding customers, the more you have to actually add your remedy staffing and technology and remedies themselves. It's crazy. It's an expensive way to run your business.
I love the concepts of shrinkflation and skimpflation, particularly as it pertains to service. When you're in the grocery store and you see the boxes and the products and doing that, it's pretty easy to recognize. I think it's probably not as always fast to recognize when service that you're receiving. Can you give a couple of examples that you've seen of people shrinking their CS or CX services, so that our listeners might be able to recognize, oh, we're doing this, or we're thinking about doing this, and here's why it's a bad idea, and here's something we should do instead?
Yeah, I've heard about it quite a lot, that because of the talent shortage, partly, and because of all the remote rigmarole that companies had to go through over these past few years in the pandemic, we had to ask customers for more patience.
Yep.
Right. We had to ask customers to please bear with us. Please listen carefully. These things have changed and this and that. Well, okay, let's get over it. Let's get back to normal, or let's get to, a new level of efficiency. Surely, there's been a lot of things digitalized. There's been a lot of streamlining and re-engineering of processes and policies. Why in the heck are things worse, not better? Haven't we been through enough? But there are a lot of companies and managers who are just caving in to the idea that, oh, but interest rates are rising and gas, petrol, oil prices are higher, and blah, blah, blah. Be clever, be creative. In my own company during the pandemic, I figured out how to shrink our costs and expand our value greatly. The cost went down by about half. The value went up 2 to 3 times as much of what people get when they buy our things. Shouldn't this be the way of the future, that we're always overcoming the odds to increase our value to people? We need it.
I think completely. And I love that, because it shouldn't just be happening now in a pandemic, and particularly even kind of now we're still at the end of the pandemic, we hope, or coming towards the end, but we've got lots of new economic pressures, as you said, growing inflation, supply chain challenges, and these are global, so you shouldn't just be focusing on these situations, but how do we do this ongoing? I loved what you were saying about how do you make CX kind of a company-wide way of thinking. And I'd love to get your thoughts on how do you do that? How do you go about ensuring that what we're delivering to our customers as value is a company-wide thing? It's not just a team. It's not just a department. It's not just one leader. What are some of the things that you've seen that can really help people get it, that organizational-wide buy-in and way of delivering? Because it's a business-wide way of working. It isn't a team.
That's right. If you doubled or tripled your customer service, customer success, customer experience, user experience staff, whatever, digital CRM, if you doubled or tripled the number of people you could hire into that, and the company would say, yeah, right on, we can afford it, blah, blah. Would you be able to guarantee excellent customer experience? No, absolutely not. Because the definition of a good experience is a 1-to-1 ratio, right? So that means that anybody in your company's ecosystem, including your alliance partners, your channel partners, your suppliers, your legal team, your facilities managers, everybody really is reliant. The customer relies on them to not mess up the customer experience. And, frankly, people don't wake up in the morning thinking, oh, where can I cut some corners? Where can I create a bad experience? Everyone's trying their best. They just don't know any better. So the onus is on the customer experience leaders to take all this precious insight that we're collecting, marketing, customer service, customer success, customer experience, digital management, partner experience, employee experience, are all collectors of great insights. And we're not using them like even a tenth of what the value could be. Companies could get 90% more value out of their VOC, VOE, VOX by making sure that they're sharing it on a regular basis with all of the other groups, not just on some, pre-canned dashboard. That's not good enough. You need to be translating these insights into the lingo and the cadences of these different groups. So that's what I did. When I came into the Silicon Valley company, leading customer experience company-wide, I was the voice of the customer manager, and I created more than 50 reports back when we had Lotus 1, 2, 3, for heaven's sakes, right?
Oh, I remember those days. That was a scary piece of enterprise software. That.
Okay. So we were using, like Excel spreadsheets, but we were creating more than 50 reports so that each group would have their own cut of the CX data. And then I got on a plane and I went around Singapore, Korea, Taiwan, Japan, all through Europe, through North America, every place that we had business. And I did a readout so that they would understand, here's our corporate situation, and then here's your cut, here's what you own. And then the same day, we had a cross-organizational workshop where, all of the people that are associated with that cut of the data, we had representatives from sales, finance, HR, marketing, engineering, manufacturing, supplier management, the whole 9 yards. So we would break into two groups and address two of the key drivers that group had toward loyalty. And so every group had 2 action plans going on. Now, once a quarter, my team would collect their single-page strategies for these 2 action plans, and we published these single-page strategies in what we call the Green Book. And we shared the Green Book with the senior leadership team every quarter as they were preparing for the stock market analyst calls. So they had a blue book of operational data, they had a black book of financial data, and a green book of customer experience progress data. So we were focusing people on the root causes. What we did in the workshop was we figured out what was the root cause of the key drivers, and we were rewarding people for their progress in working on the root cause. And that's how you create customer experience annuities. That's how you create millions of hours of saved time for customers, millions of dollars or euros or pounds of saved money for customers, and on down the line. What precipitated this, how we got onto this trajectory, was our largest customer was quite upset with us. And it was the largest customer in our industry, quite a bit larger than us, and very influential. And the CEO of that company stood up in one of those appreciation dinners and said, we buy so much from you just because you're always first to market with the latest technology. But I have to be very transparent with you. We're looking forward to your competitors being first to market because you're really hard to do business with. You're really arrogant.
Wow.
And so that was the genesis of my role, where I was brought in, some months later to take on the VOC role, and I was chartered to turn that around.
I
And
love
so
the way
that's
you
why-
talked
yeah.
about the kind of different books. You've got your financial book,
Yeah.
your operational book, having people think about, well, we need something. It's as important as the business finances.
Yeah.
It's the customer data. And I don't think enough organizations are doing it yet. I love initiatives like what you've done, what you're doing, but I just love more organizations to be starting to make that investment and realize they need to do it. But it's such a great concept. It is as important as your company financial data.
Well, where do the finances come from?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I just
Absolutely.
don't understand this whole thing. I've taught business, I have an MBA, and I just don't understand why the Wall Street Journal and the London Times, whatever, they do not put customers on the front page stories. Even
Right.
when you go to the money section, when they talk about customer whatnot,
Yeah.
it's never really about customer experience. Any story they have is about customer service, few and far between, never really linking that where the heck you get your money is from the customers.
Right.
Why do you think that is then? What do you think's missing? Why?
Well, first of all, it used to be so clear before we had the Industrial Revolution. And then, of course, people specialized in all their functional expertise.
Yeah.
And people have come to take for granted that, these functions exist just because every company has to have them. And, we've gotten removed from the customer and viewing them as some kind of voluminous, pain in the bum, kind of a thorn in your side, I guess. If we just didn't have those customers, then everything would be nicer in our business.
Those pesky people.
So luckily, I had, so I think that, just finishing that thought is back in the 70s and 80s, there was quite a lot of really interesting modeling done about investor value, right? Shareholder value. And so somehow in the 70s, 80s, it seems that the definition of business success became creating value for shareholders. In 2019, I think it was 2018 or 2019, there was an organization called the Business Roundtable, which consists of hundreds of leading CEOs, and they decided to issue a proclamation about the purpose of business.
Mhm.
And I can't be more thrilled. Have you seen it?
Not seen it, no. I'm
Yeah.
intrigued now, absolutely intrigued. I'm going to look. What is the purpose of business according to the article?
The purpose of business is to create value for customers, employees, communities, suppliers, and investors, in that order.
It's phenomenal that the word value is in there. And we've said before, I think that the thing that I feel privileged sometimes in the field that we're in is that we're responsible for other people's success and driving value from them. And that's not just our customers, it's our team members, it's external stakeholders. So that definition really, really rings true there. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I teach a college class, I always move that chapter in the textbook from 13 or 18 or whatever about customer segmentation. That's what we talk about the first 2 weeks. We talk about customers as the source of salaries, budgets, and dividends or returns to your investors.
Yeah, I mean, that only makes sense. Start there and follow the money. I love the story you were sharing about the customer saying, I've got to be honest with you. And, if I'm a CEO receiving that direct feedback from a customer, I'm probably a bit worried about a lot of things at that point very quickly. I'm curious, what advice would you give to our listeners who may find themselves as a head of CS or a chief customer officer, where they recognize and agree with a lot of the things that you're saying, but they're struggling internally in their own organization to create those ahas with CEOs, with the other leadership team, or even the board or investors? And what should they be doing, or could they be doing, to try and trigger some of that awareness for folks so that their CEO doesn't have to be on the receiving end of that conversation from a key customer?
Well, we have a lot of re-engineering still going on because of supply chain, talent, remote or hybrid situations. And this is a wonderful opportunity to step forward and say, hey, Manager X, you're reworking something. Did you know that our customers and employees have made comments about things related to this? And it could be quite insightful as a guide to minimize the waste, to keep this organization lean, and to generate higher value in the course of it. I saw that as a huge opportunity at the very beginning of the pandemic. I was so pleased to hear that people were saying, what's going on with our customers in any functional area? What's happening? What do we need to adjust for the new things happening with our customers? You heard about that a lot in like April and early May of 2020. Huge opportunity, huge window there, but very few customer experience people. I've never heard of any customer experience people who really, seize the day for that. And it's a travesty, but it's because we're too, we've been drinking the lemonade or the Kool-Aid for too long, and thinking about, we just have to ask people if they would recommend us, and we have to go and fix things that went wrong, and we have to digitalize everything to and make things a profit center. And it's all a bunch of BS, really. That's not what it's about. It's about closing the ratio, 1-to-1 ratio.
Absolutely.
How do you see the role of chief customer officer? We're beginning to see kind of more and more organizations investing in that. And it doesn't have to be that name necessarily, but that C-level exec role focused on the customer. Yeah. And it's, even in Europe now, we're seeing a lot of organizations, and even non-tech ones. You're seeing your big food organizations, pharmaceuticals, airlines, even investing in these roles. How do you see that role evolving, and what does the ideal team structure look like for a chief customer officer?
Yeah, so you should be aiming for almost automatic customer experience excellence, meaning that every group needs to understand their performance standards in a customer experience context. So let's just give the example of two banks here in America that have recently been called on the carpet, one as recently as this year, for the business development group creating phony accounts for their customers because their bonus goal for the year was to have higher number of accounts per customer on average compared to the industry norm. The
Right.
business development group, who would think that you need to include the business development group in customer-centered thinking or, customer experience, not creating problems. So that you should care about that, because what happened in each of those case studies is that the stock price plummeted after people were outraged. The government got heavy-handed and fined them really heavy fines and other stipulations, a lot of paperwork and, pain in the bum. So, this is damaging the brand. Customer experience is really about enhancing the brand, right? So the main idea for a chief customer officer is to drive almost automatic CX excellence by helping the whole company become more customer centric. It doesn't mean being a doormat. It means understanding your role in terms of the one-to-one ratio and generating more value. So how do you do that? You need to listen to what your customers are saying. You have a huge treasure trove of comments on hand that you could just be using text mining, voice mining, video mining, what have you. We have that technology now, and distill all of that into a couple of camps of expectation sets. Okay. So most brands will have 2 or 3 overall expectation sets. For example, in one company that I worked with, they had a simplicity expectation set. And then there was another group of customers that was very keen about timeliness, meaning like a 2-hour window, or just, be exact with what you promise, make it happen at that time. Okay. And both of those camps of customers had quite huge consequences when things weren't simple, like even just introducing a new order entry system was like a huge headache for them because they were juggling so much. The timeliness ones, if something was a little early or a little late, it was just astounding what the snowball effect was on their costs and their reputation and their productivity and their buying. Right? They would buy a lot more from this brand if the timeliness or if the simplicity thing were kept within a certain range. So by just distilling it to 2 simple things like that, that allows every group, business development group, the legal group, the supplier management group, the engineering, the operations, on down the line. Is this thing that we're thinking about doing contributing to or detracting from simplicity and timeliness, or whatever the theme is for your company?
Yep. Wow, I like that, and I love the distilling it down to 2 things. We often talk about our to-do list and how long it is, and I think people should just respell that the TWO list, and just these are the 2 things we're going to do, and just
There you go.
I couldn't agree more, Jason. I think that simplification there, as you've said, Lynn, is so critical, and too many organizations are overcomplicating really what it is. That simplification, I think, makes it so clear for everyone in your team, your whole business, to understand what we're about, what we're trying to do.
That's right. So I've also suggested in some of my articles about a value quotient metric.
Okay.
So instead of, patting ourselves on the back for people might recommend us, but they might recommend 5 other brands at the same time, or they might not, I just think, that's just way overdone. Let's shift our thinking to a value quotient, which means every time that we're contributing toward the timeliness and simplicity thing, or, whatever it is for your company, then you get a point in the numerator. Every time that you're missing the mark in the simplicity or timeliness goal, then you're getting a demerit in the numerator, the denominator. So it's a very simple way to just keep a tally of your handoffs, right? And you can do this as kind of an internal customer satisfaction, internal customer experience thing, as well as external.
Mhm.
So everybody can be more consistent and more aware of the instances where they're creating grief
Mhm.
internally and externally. By having a 1-to-1 ratio, well, you don't want to really have a 1-to-1 ratio on that. You want to, but you want to have like maximum numerator and,
Yeah.
and hardly any denominator on that. It grows trust, and trust is what people are really clamoring for. They're just thirsting for it in employee experience, partner experience, and customer experience. We've become so mercenary and so superficial, really, in experience management. We need to get back to what is it that people are trying to get done? How are we contributing to that or detracting from it? How do we stay true? How do we, demonstrate consistency and growing people toward what they're trying to get done in their life?
Wow, that's really great stuff. I love those ideas, and thank you so much for sharing all those with us. As we wind down here, we always like to throw out a bold challenge question, and really this is meant to be what sort of for our listeners, what sort of bold actions would you like them to take to have a dramatic impact very quickly? So our question for you is, what is the number one thing that CS leaders should be doing today to ensure that they're delivering value to their customers when the external market challenges and pressures like we have today? And it sounds like you've already seen some bold action, you've seen some bold mistakes as well too. What is the thing you'd like to really challenge people to do to have a tremendous positive impact in the organization and for their customers?
Yeah, I think that if you can cut corners in some of the administrative things that you're doing or even operational things that you're doing that our customers don't want,
Mhm.
that would be the place to cut corners, not in the product or the service, not in, laying off your people, but be more aware of where you're creating waste. What are the prevalent issues? I just published another article on customer think this week called 6 customer experience spirit animals for today's imperative of trust.
Mhm.
And so I would hope that people will go to those spirit animals, and there's several suggestions for the new way of customer experience leadership that I've been describing under each of the 6 animals. So that would be my challenge.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
That's where I'm going to go after this call, Lynn. I want to see this article. I love the idea of that. Lynn, this conversation has been phenomenal, really insightful. I've learned a lot. I think there's a lot of great takeaways for our listeners. Your style, your experience, I think lends so much to what we're all trying to do in the field of customer experience and customer success. So again, a huge thank you for joining us today. What we'd like to let you do before we go, a shameless, you're going to tell Jess, I didn't forget this time.
Well done.
Shameless plug, please, for what you guys are doing for your own organization.
Well, we're running right now a customer experience team sport award contest, and it's pretty simple. You just go to clearaction.com/cx-team-sport-awards, CX Team Sport Awards, and enter. It's really around those 6 spirit animals that I just mentioned. We have what's called the Experience Value Exchange, which is an online community that you can subscribe to for your whole marketing department, your whole customer experience, customer success, what have you. And what that does is it builds the competencies in these 6 areas of lifetime value mindset, driving root cause improvement based on customer experience insights, increasing value in your growth plans through customer experience insights, and so forth. So I welcome you to join the Value Exchange.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And we'll obviously include links to that in the show notes as well too. So Lynn, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it and look forward to keeping in touch.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks, Lynn. Take care.
Take care.